All right, so what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story takes place back when I was in high school, and I remember this was one of the most embarrassing but most scariest times of my life. And if you guys saw the title of this story, yes, this is actually a true story, and no, I do not fake my stories. I don't know why this keeps getting spread around. Why would I fake a story about my life if I lived it? Sorry. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember this all takes place back when I was in high school. It was my grade 11 year, and I remember basically me and my friends were all planning on going to the pool, but we weren't going to the pool just because we wanted to. Funny enough, we were going to the pool because a girl the week before ended up coming up to me in class saying, "Hey Bubba, I was wondering, like, my stepdaddy like made me move up to the hills with my mom and her, and like my parents got like a brand new like pool and stuff, and we're having like a crazy pool party with like a new sauna and everything that was set up there. I was wondering if you want to go, because like you already know all the girls are gonna be pulling up and stuff, and like it'd be cool for you to be there and stuff, if you know what I mean." I remember I looked at her and I told her that I would only go in one condition, and I could bring some of the homies along, because you already know I'm for the boys, you know what I mean? Not meaning I'm gay, like I'm literally just like homies. It's a bro code. You guys will understand eventually. And then I remember basically after that day, she agreed to let the boys come along because her parents were okay with it, which is awesome. And then I remember I went to go on Xbox to tell the boys, and then they all started kind of panicking, freaking out, but at the same time excited. Two of the boys wanted to go. One of the boys were on like a fence about it because they were thinking it was a bad idea. And then one of the guys said no. Apparently the guy said no because apparently a girl that was going there had a boyfriend that really hated one of my guy friends. But honestly, I told him everything was gonna be fine, but he still refused to go. Now, reminder, this girl's boyfriend that hates my friend, he's a very key part of the story, so just remember him, please. Anyways, I remember basically me and all my friends, we ended up getting all dressed up. We all got ready, wore our swimsuits, and drove down to this girl's house. And when I said her stepdaddy was rich, her stepdaddy was loaded. Like, no joke. I remember when we were going into the driveway and parking the car, we saw two Mercedes Benzes in C-Class, and one of them was a Ferrari. Like a brand new Ferrari. I don't know why. I guess I want a stepdaddy. I don't know. And then afterwards, I remember we all ended up going inside the house, and as we were all looking around, being amazed by everything that was there. And then as we were looking around the house, I remember this girl's mom that invited us in the first place ended up coming down the stairs saying, "Oh, you must be some of her friends. Well, she's outside right now in the back of the pool, so just go down this way." We went out there. I remember we basically saw a bunch of girls tanning and all this stuff, and I remember I ended up walking up to one of the girls that invited us in the first place. I walked up to her saying, "Yo, like I just got here. Yo, nice place. This actually looks awesome." And she started flexing about her daddy and how she, he won like a lottery or something. I have no idea. Just started talking about her daddy. And then afterwards, I remember I ended up standing up and looking around and seeing that this pool party was getting more crowded by the minute. Like, no joke. There was a lot of people coming in, and it got to the point where almost 100 people were there. It was actually really nice, and it was a really big house up in the hills, so it could fit all of us really nicely. We all started walking around with our fruit punch because obviously I don't promote underage drinking. And yeah, I basically was just swimming, having a good time. But then out of nowhere, I remember I ended up turning my head once I got out of the water, and I looked around and I saw her. Now, there was one girl in my high school that I was madly in love with, I guess. Like I said in all my videos, I'm a helpless romantic. And I remember I saw a girl that I had a massive crush on, and she ended up showing up at the pool party. And she was in her bikini, showing her massive cherries and massive peach, and going inside the water. And I remember I really wanted to swim up to her and kind of just introduce myself and say hey, hi and all this cool stuff. I remember I didn't want to just walk up to her because obviously that's embarrassing. So I needed to find a way that I could bump into her. Because like I said in my last video of my first crush, for some reason, I'm a really helpless romantic, meaning I like to do things in a weird scenario, in a weird gesture. So I remember I ended up finding the nearest ball that was near me, and I ended up telling my friend, "Yo, throw this towards that direction as hard as you can." He ended up looking at me saying, "Okay, sure, I'll just throw it towards that girl. Not weird at all, sure." And then afterward, he started chucking it over there, and me, I jumped in the water and landed literally on her amazing cherries on purpose. Well, in her eyes, it was an accident, but for me, it was on purpose. She ended up looking at me saying, "Oh my goodness, is this your ball?" And I'm like, "Yeah, those are my balls. I mean, ball. Yeah. Thanks. Wait, aren't you like in my class?" And then she looked at me saying, "Oh yeah, like we have the same teacher for science." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, like it's cool to see you." I don't know. I basically just made a conversation starter, and it worked. Me and her started talking throughout the day, and we started drinking more punch. YouTube, I'm saying punch, nothing else. And yeah, it was actually a pretty cool time. But then came later on. I remember me and this girl, we were eventually just sitting down on the poolside talking about life and stuff. And then afterwards, for some reason, the girl that invited me to the party decided to invite one of the football players at our school. Except this football player had the same crush as I did and made things really, really awkward for me. Like, no joke, he ended up going to the pool and literally jumping over me as I was sitting on the poolside with this girl and literally said, cannonball over a loser, and basically did a cannonball over him. It was kind of impressive, I'll give him that, but it was embarrassing and really dumb. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically he just kept embarrassing me, making fun of me, and he would always just jump into the conversation, not really being a good bro. You know what I mean? Because let's just say this guy did not follow the bro code at all. Because all this guy would do is just eavesdrop in our conversation, join in, make fun of me about the conversation we're having, and then start talking better about himself. It became so annoying to the point where I remember I looked at him saying, dude, no one cares. Who asked? We're Champ Andy. And I walked away. As I walked away though, literally this girl recognized that this guy was being a total doofus. So she ended up standing up and actually following me. And me, I was headed towards one place where I knew I could relax. And that's a sauna. Now this is where the story gets really scary and the title of the story starts making sense. I remember I ended up going inside the sauna and I started sitting in there going on my phone, just chilling. But then afterwards, out of nowhere, this girl ends up following up behind me saying, hey, like, wait for me. And we ended up sitting in the sauna together. She literally sits in the sauna with me. We start talking and stuff. And one thing led to another. Me and her got pretty romantic. And by this, I mean, yes, she started putting her hand on my thighs, sitting on my lap. And then I ended up getting bricked. And yeah, I think you guys know the rest. I ended up doing the devil's tango with her in the sauna. Now, if you guys thought people were going to walk into the sauna, no, not many people enjoyed the sauna in our high school party for some reason. So it was only me and this girl that were in there. And me and her, we were sweating up a storm. Like, it was actually doing really good. We were in there for like almost half an hour. And I looked at her saying, all right, we should probably get out of here. And as I look at the door, I literally see the creepy football player that was super annoying just staring at us doing the devil's tango. Now at this point I get embarrassed and I'm like, yo dude, like chill. I end up covering my towel and then what this guy decides to do is lock the door. Yeah, this guy literally locked us in the sauna and the sauna controls were literally outside of the sauna itself. So I remember I start panicking and I'm like, oh my goodness, wait, he locked us in here. I remember this girl starts freaking out, slamming on the door and crying as much as she could. But me, I remember I basically looked at her saying, hey, listen, don't worry, I have an idea. I remember I looked around and I saw the window. There was a window in the sauna so you can kind of like get a cool view of like the back like hills and stuff because it was like on top of the hill so you could like see like a really cool mountain view. And I basically started looking out there and trying to find a way that we could, you know, turn down the temperature. Because, you know, being locked in a sauna is actually really dangerous. And luckily for me, we didn't have the temperature that high up. We only had it at like, I want to say 85 degrees Celsius. And the world record was held back in 2003, funny enough, for only being in a sauna for 16 minutes and 15 seconds. So if we were in there longer than that with a higher temperature, we would have been dead. So me thinking out of the box, I remember I started looking around the sauna. As I was looking around, I realized that I saw a tagline on the heating vents that were, you know, a part of the sauna that really brought the heat into the sauna was built in 2016, meaning that it was a fairly new built machine, meaning that these weren't real rocks or the heating vents weren't actually real heat. I mean, it was real heat, but they weren't real coal rocks like they do back in Japan or anywhere they have sauna. Because most saunas use real coal or real heating. I don't know. It's a weird science, but me being MacGyver, I basically figured out what to do. And I ended up going to the heating vents and finding a plug and unscrewing the plugs and unscrewing the sauna. Meaning I literally took apart a heating vent, basically. So that's really how you name it in short terms. I was trying to really sound science and technical there, but I was just making fun of myself, really. But after I unplugged it, I remember basically I ended up looking around and I saw that at the window, the butler was nearby. So I ended up looking at the butler and staring him down. And for some reason, one thing I learned in science class is that when someone's staring at you, you can feel someone staring at you. So this butler ended up looking around, seeing who was staring at him, and he ended up seeing me. He saw me in there, and I remember he ended up looking at the door, being curious of why it was locked, and then coming up to us and opening the door. I remember when that happened, the butler opened the door, the girl ran out of there as fast as she could, saying, oh my goodness, that was so scary. And she started freaking out, panicking, and leaving. And as for me, I just walked out of there normally, and the butler looked at me saying, are you all right, sir? Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks, man. And I ended up leaving, getting my car, because I was dry as hell, getting as much air as I can in my body, and basically leaving to go home. And that was basically it. So if you guys enjoyed the story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, I fall for more embarrassing but crazy stories. All right, peace out, guys. Now, I've been trapped in many places, and I'm not gonna lie to you, back when I was in middle school, I ended up getting trapped inside a Costco freezer. Like, you know those giant freezers that hold like a bunch of frozen foods? Yeah, I ended up being trapped in there with my crush, and what ends up happening was insane. Halloween. But before we get into the story, make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do and makes me be able to tell more stories to you guys just like this one. But other than that, let's just jump straight into this embarrassing story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba and welcome to a really crazy story time. So today's story all takes place back in my grade 7 year. Now in grade 7, you guys may know I had a crush, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a real helpless romantic, and me falling in love in middle school was so common and so just on the regular. And I remember it got to the point where I remember one time it was a Saturday and me and my family, we had to go grocery shopping. Me and my family, we ended up basically all getting inside the van and we ended up heading towards Costco. Costco is usually like the go-to place. It's like the glory of all grocery foods. And like, honestly, the fact that you need like a premium VIP membership to go inside in some way makes me feel pretty special. Like, I'm 22 years old now, and me seeing that, honestly, I'm kind of jealous. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I ended up going to Costco, and when I got there, me and my parents were walking around just picking up groceries that we needed, getting my favorite fruit snacks, and just doing our thing. But then out of nowhere, I recognized that I saw my crush's mom walking around in some aisles that we were passing through. Now, at first, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, oh, that's my crush's mom. That's awesome. But then out of nowhere, I remember I started looking towards the middle part of Costco where, you know, they usually have clothing and board games and books. And I ended up seeing my crush looking at the book aisle and basically started reading the Percy Jackson books at Costco. At that moment, I was in shock. I'm like, oh my goodness, my crush is here. Okay, wait, I gotta talk to her. I gotta talk to her. This is the only time I get to talk to her out of school. And like, it'll be cool. Like, we're both Costco VIP members. Not that that matters, but you know what? I gotta talk to her. And me being super nervous, I ended up basically trying to force myself to just go up to her and go talk to her. But then my dad ended up calling me saying, Bubba, can you come here? I need to talk to you. I need to know which milk you want. From there, I remember I ended up basically heading over to my dad and we ended up going towards the freezer section where it's the coldest part of Costco, where basically they keep all their frozen foods and stuff and basically like the fridges and everything. Just the cold side of Costco that most kids don't like going through. And I remember as me and him were walking around, I noticed that my crush also ended up being in that area as well because her parents wanted her opinion on something as well. Very interesting how parents ask for the kid's opinion, which in reality, if I had to really think about it, I could still survive on chocolate milk and grilled cheese sandwiches. I mean, it's nice to have options, right? And at that moment, I remember my crush noticed me as we were both in the freezer section, and she looked at me and she's like, oh, hey, Bubba. I ended up not knowing what to say, so I ended up standing there shaking, saying, hey. Yeah, I even like deepened my voice. I was in middle school. Like, kids in middle school don't have deep voices. Unless you do. If you do, then comment down below. But still, like, it's just super bizarre how that all happened, and I felt super embarrassed. So the whole time knowing at that point that I basically blew it, I ended up just basically looking down on myself and thinking, wow, I gotta be smarter with my life. I remember later on, I want to say like 30 minutes later, Costco was closing. It was getting late, and for some reason, Costco was closing earlier than usual. And everyone started heading to like basically the cashiers, and it was flooded, and my parents were like, you know, about to get their stuff ready to load up for the cashier to scan. But then my dad forgot something in the freezer section. He ended up looking at me saying, can you go to the freezer section and pick up the frozen food that I need? I ended up looking at him, shaking my head, and to be honest, like, he wanted like something, I don't remember what, because obviously it was so long ago, and he ended up needing something from the freezer section. So me being the fast, young, agile, amazing, super strong kid that I was, okay, well, I wasn't that good, but you know what I mean, I ended up running towards the freezer section, acting like I was on a mission. And when I got to the freezer section, I ended up seeing my crush there also picking up something that she needed last minute. Now I remember when I looked at her, I was in shock. I'm like, bro, it's destiny. This is my second chance. I can do this. And right as she saw me, she ended up walking up to me saying, oh, hey, Bubba, what are you getting? Oh, I'm just getting this thing right here. Wait, what are you getting? I don't know. I'm trying to find it. I don't know what it exactly it looks like. And I'm not gonna lie to you right now as I'm telling the story, I don't exactly remember what she wanted, but at the same time, I ended up helping her find something or try to find something. And me and her, we started looking around the freezer to basically see if it's there. Now, reminder, it was around the time Costco was closing. So obviously workers weren't around, nothing to ask because they're all prepping to basically close down the store. And me, I remember I looked at her and said, yo, if we don't see it here, maybe we should like go check like the back area of the freezer, like where the staff go. Yeah, like where the staff people go and stuff. That way, like maybe we could find it there and just take it to the front. Okay, sure, lead the way. Me and her, we started basically heading towards the back of the freezer room because like there's the main freezer, and then behind it there's like another freezer that like, you know, holds extra storage so they can quickly grab and put it in the front. And me, I ended up going back there with her and we started looking around, but then one thing led to another. Out of nowhere, we ended up hearing a loud thud. Now, when we heard this loud thud, we didn't know what it was. guys, we were really scared, and to be honest, the whole freezer ended up going dark after like 2 seconds of hearing that thud. And at that moment, I knew that something was wrong. Now, this is where the story gets really scary, because I remember me and her, we ended up heading towards the freezer exit, but it was pitch black in there. And me and her, we were holding hands, basically making sure that we knew where we were. And we ended up basically getting to the point where we were getting really cold. So since we were getting really cold, me and her being trapped in there, we ended up basically getting really close together. And I said, hey, like stay close with me and like cuddle me so we can stay warm. We ended up doing this, and we ended up being in that freezer for longer than 20 minutes. As crazy as it is, I have no idea how we survived, but 20 minutes is a very long time. And I remember me and her, we started like freaking out and stuff, and we felt like we were never gonna go home. I remember she looked at me, and me trying to be the man I was, I looked at her and said, don't worry, one way or another, I'll get us out of here. And when I said that, I don't know why, but she found this very romantic. And I guess that was her opportunity, where she ended up actually kissing me in the lips, and we ended up making out. We ended up making out in the Costco freezer, and I don't know what to tell you. Even though we were in the Costco freezer, my heart was warmer than ever. This felt like the perfect part of a movie where I just ended up getting the girl. I remember after we ended up making out in there and basically cuddling the whole time, we ended up hearing over the announcements, Bubba, where are you? Your parents are looking up front. Can you please head up front? Thank you. And I didn't know what to do, because obviously I couldn't do anything. So I ended up basically just deciding to just use all my power and basically start slamming on the freezer door as much as I could until one of the workers heard me. Luckily, there was some guy that was wearing headphones that ended up hearing me slamming the freezer door, and he ended up opening it, noticing that there were 2 kids in there basically freaking out. Me and her, we ended up basically walking out of the freezer together, and right as we walk out, we both sprint to the front, and our parents ended up holding us, realizing we were super cold, and Costco ended up basically giving us gift cards for the inconvenience. I will say, it is kind of crazy seeing my parents be more happy about a gift card than their son being alive, but hey, what can I say? My parents got a gift card. Like, I can't blame them. I love gift cards as well. Also, not to mention, after that whole freezer situation, the next day at school, when I ended up seeing my crush, she acted like nothing ever happened, which kind of ruined my whole, like, you know, romantic scene and everything. And, you know, I guess I in reality didn't get the girl at the end, but hey, what can I say? Just another embarrassing moment. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's insane story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. I remember the school got into a lockdown, then out of nowhere, I ended up heading straight for the doors, but then I realized that the doors were locked. And my crush looks at me saying, oh my goodness, I think we're trapped in here. Like, what was I supposed to do? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story all happened back when I was actually in middle school. And in middle school, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was in no way a player. Okay, usually I would say I was a player, but that was only in high school. In middle school, I was a really insecure kid, and I'm not gonna lie to you, the only things I actually cared about back then was playing video games and kind of just Batman. Batman's been my favorite superhero ever since I was a kid, by the way, and still to this day, I love Batman, to the point where I even have a Batman tattoo. But going on with the story, I remember there was a day in middle school where basically the teacher ended up walking in front of the classroom saying, okay, class, so we're going to be having a surprise lockdown eventually sometime this week. So I want you guys all to make sure you guys are calm and ready for when it happens. It's just a drill, and trust me, everything will be a-okay. I promise. Now, obviously, if you guys don't know what a lockdown is, basically is when your school gets like kind of like into a lockdown for like safety reasons, and everyone has to like kind of go into the corner of the classroom and hide. It's like rehearsed for certain reasons, which I mean, if you're an American citizen, you would understand. But going on with the story, I remember all my friends were talking about this, saying that it was like a super fun thing to like basically rehearse, which honestly kind of blew my mind and really did not make any sense, because me personally, I never liked doing any drill, like fire drill, lockdowns. Like I never liked any of it back when I was growing up, because let's be real here, the alarm is super loud when it happens. But throughout the entire week, I remember a lot of students the whole time in the school would keep trying to like predict when the lockdown was gonna happen. I don't know why, but there were even people like trying to make jokes about it and stuff, which honestly is not something to joke about in my opinion, but I had bigger worries to worry about, because I remember the next day ended up coming around, and basically I ended up going into my science classroom. Now growing up, I was never good at science, but I remember our science teacher ended up handing us a project that we had to do grouped up in pairs, and me, I ended up pairing up with my crush. Now if you guys don't know, back when I was in middle school, I had a major crush on this one certain girl. Like this girl was my entire world. I even wrote about her in my journal as if like it was a diary. That's how far I've gotten with falling in love with this girl. But at the time of this story, I'm not gonna lie to you, I never actually even spoke to this girl. Like I don't even know if she knows I existed. But I remember out of pure embarrassment, I remember the teacher ends up calling out my name and my crush's name right afterwards, and we were assigned as a group for a science project. Now, this moment, I remember was the first time my crush ever like actually stared into my eyes, and she looked at me saying, okay, well, I guess you're my partner. You're Bubba, right? Yeah, hi. I'm Bubba. Okay, cool. Now, I'm not gonna lie, she looked at me as if I was pretty dumb, but don't get me wrong, I was really nervous. And back when I was in middle school, I had a majorly bad stutter, okay? Like, the stutter was bad. Even during like recording these videos, I'm not gonna lie to you, I stutter a lot, but thank God there's a thing called editing, because if there wasn't, then I would be stuttering 24/7. And I don't think you guys want to hear that. But basically, me and her, we ended up pairing up together, and we ended up going to a different part of the classroom, and me and her, we started working on this project where we were supposed to make things light up with a potato. Yeah, I didn't know there was energy in potatoes or in certain foods, I guess, but that was like basically like the unit we were on for like finding out electricity. So we ended up using a potato to try to make power. But I remember the whole time this girl, my crush, would speak to me, I would always, and I mean always, stutter trying to say something back to her. Like, it was a repeat of, oh, like, did you actually plug that in properly? Yeah. Like, it was really, really bad, and it was very obvious that like that she felt uncomfortable because, well, I guess I was a weirdo back then. I'm not gonna lie. I remember when the bell rang for lunch, instantly I ended up seeing this girl getting up and actually leaving the classroom right away. Like, she didn't even say anything to me and left. And I noticed that she went straight to her friends, and I guess they started gossiping about me because she ended up pointing at me and I guess making fun of me, which honestly, I don't blame her, but to this day, like, you know, it does kind of suck being, you know, hated on like that. But to be fair, I deal with hate all the time now. I don't know. It was just something personal that actually kind of hurt my feelings. And when my feelings were hurt back then, well, the first thing I would do is go straight to my journal, not a diary. It was a journal. And I would write in it, basically putting down my feelings. But as I went to my locker, I ended up realizing that my journal wasn't there. I ended up freaking out, and I'm like, wait, where's my journal? What? And I started panicking and freaking out because that journal leaving my vicinity was a bad thing. A very bad thing. You guys don't understand what's in my journal. Well, actually, I made a video about it a long time back. If you guys do want to see that, check it out on the channel. But going on, I started panicking and thinking, where would I leave my journal? I went back into like every classroom I could think of, and then the bell finally rang for lunch to end, and I was back into my science classroom because that was the last place I did not check. As I'm in my science classroom, I'm looking around trying to find this thing, and one thing led to another. I ended up seeing my crush end up walking in to the science classroom saying, oh, hey, Bubba, I forgot my textbook here. Do you know where it is? And right at that moment, when she asked me that, I ended up hearing a brr, 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 and it was the alarm going off for the lockdown. I remember I start panicking, and I look at her thinking, wait, what's going on? And instantly at that moment, I realized that the doors ended up making like a locking sound, and I sprinted for the doors before it could happen, but I didn't make it in time, obviously. And right as I'm like moving the door handle, I'm realizing that it's not unlocking. My crush ends up looking over my shoulder, and she says, Bubba, I think we're stuck in here. And at that moment, I end up looking at her, and I'm like, what? We're stuck? We're gonna die, dude. Bubba, there's nothing to worry about, okay? Like, it's just a lockdown. It's just a drill. Relax. Okay, well, like, what's the procedure? What are we supposed to do? I ended up trying to figure out, like, what was the best plan and trying to find any worksheet around the teacher's desk that told us what we were supposed to do in a lockdown, because I was panicking so much to the point where I did not know what to do. I remember this girl, though, that was in the classroom with me. She did not care at all. Like, my crush did not care whatsoever that there was a lockdown happening. She literally ended up sitting at the teacher's desk and decided to basically, like, sit back and just go on her phone. I ended up looking at her saying, you do realize we're in lockdown, right? Like, we can't just be on our phones. Like, what if we get in trouble? Bubba, there's no one in here but us. We're gonna be fine. Okay, you can say that all you want, but we're in a lockdown. We should at least treat it like a lockdown. Oh my goodness, why do you gotta be so weird, Bubba? At this moment, I remember I looked at her and I'm like, wait, you actually think I'm that weird? Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. And at that moment, I'm not gonna lie to you, I ended up just sitting down and just saying, okay, you know what? Whatever. Just do what you want, I guess. I remember my crush ends up walking up beside me and sitting down and saying, you know, this is the first time I've heard you not stutter towards me. Yeah, well, I get nervous around you. I don't know. What? Why do you get nervous, Bubba? Well, I don't know if you know, but like, I have a crush on you. So like, obviously, like, I'm gonna be nervous around you. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Oh, I just thought you were like dumb or something. At that moment, I ended up looking at her, and me and her, we started laughing. And well, one thing led to another. We actually started connecting on a different level. We started talking about popularity and like, you know, how middle school is like basically the age where we all hit puberty and start being weirdos, I guess. And me and her, we actually got along to the point where she actually ended up letting me put my arm around her. And well, one thing led to another. I started to notice that she was leaning in towards me. So I decided to lean back towards her. And me thinking this was the first time I I was ever gonna get to kiss a girl that was my crush, the teacher ends up unlocking the science classroom and looking at us saying, "Hey, what are you two doing in here? It's a lockdown. You guys are supposed to be outside. The teachers are looking for you." "Oh, sorry, we're heading right out right now." At that moment, I remember she ended up standing up right away and leaving, and me, I'm just sitting at that desk thinking, wow, the best thing that was ever gonna happen to me ended up getting blocked by a teacher. I remember I ended up basically going outside with this girl, and we ended up lining up in our classrooms like we were supposed to, and well, the teacher got obviously really mad at us to the point where actually I ended up getting detention. And not only me, but she also got detention as well. And I remember this girl, when she found out she got detention, she ended up gossiping with her friends, saying that I was at fault for it, and she called me the weirdo that got her detention, even after everything that just happened. Honestly, my heart broke. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I thought, you know what? Maybe there was no chance with me ever being with this girl ever. Maybe she was just too out of my league. Until after school came around, I remember I ended up basically going to detention like I was supposed to. And I saw her at the front of the door, and she looked at me and she went inside her backpack and said, "Hey, Bubba, wait, I have something for you. I remember I found this in the classroom." And she ended up handing me my journal. I ended up grabbing it right away saying, "Wait, you didn't read this, did you?" "No, I didn't read it, Bubba. I respect your privacy, okay? And to be honest, you're embarrassing for yourself enough." "Oh, okay, cool," is what I said. And we ended up going into detention and dealing with it. Honestly, I don't know. It was kind of a crazy experience, and to this day, it kind of sucked knowing what happened. And if my middle school crush is watching this right now, I just want to say you suck. Like, seriously, like, you were just a D1 hater. Like, for real. Why'd you gotta hurt me like that back when I was a kid? I don't know. Parts of me think that she's the reason why I became an ultimate player. But other than that, follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.